Is that your spawn? You people breed like rats and you're not doing it in my neighborhood. Yeah, that's what she screamed across the street. First words out of her mouth like she'd been practicing for years, just waiting for the moment to let it rip. You think you're ready for anything when you bring your first kid home? Fumble the car seat, the big walk through the door, maybe your parents waiting inside with a casserole. The house quiet for once, what you don't picture. What no one warned you about is your American dream crashing headlong into pure hate before you even cross the threshold. Let me back up a sec. That day was supposed to be perfect. I'd spent the whole morning detailing my red Mustang, even vacuumed the floor mats just for the look on my wife's face. She was tired but glowing, cradling our 6-pound miracle, and for one heartbeat, we were that Norman Rockwell painting a family starting fresh. Then, she showed up. Across the street in a neon green tracksuit so tight it looked like punishment bleach, blonde hair stiff as plastic, clutching a Starbucks like a holy relic. She pointed, twisted her face up, and let it fly. My wife, cooler than me, arms folded, stone-cold stare. Me. My voice just barely worked. Excuse me? I managed, doing my best. I'm the reasonable one here voice, even as my hand shook. We just live here. We're bringing our son home. I lifted the carrier a little, as if proof of innocence even matters. And she went off again, stepping closer. I saw you move in. I knew it. You bring your drugs, your crime, your anchor baby to start your ghetto dynasty. Not on my watch, you know what I mean? It was so cartoonish you almost had to laugh almost. But the look in her eyes, that wasn't TV racism. That was a living, breathing monster. She wasn't done. I'm calling the police, reporting a suspicious vehicle and a potential kidnapping, probably stolen that baby. She shrieked at phone already in hand. I stood there numb, holding my own son and suddenly feeling like a trespasser in my own driveway. So much for the American dream, huh? We just stood there waiting because walking away would have looked like guilt. Cops rolled up 10 minutes later, lights flashing red and blue over everything I loved. 2 officers, a young white guy, and thank God an older black officer with the kind of face that's seen this movie 1,000 times. He looked at the baby carrier and nodded. Congratulations. And just like that, my legs went out from under me. Mind if I see some ID? Of course not. He glanced at our licenses, our address, our faces. All right, he said quietly. Meanwhile, across the street, the tracksuit queen was still on her porch, shouting. The officer finally walked over, let her vent, then shut her down. Ma'am, these people live here. This is their child. You can't use 911 for this. She glared, shrieked something about the system being rigged, but the cops left with a weary apology. Your neighbor's got a history, try to ignore her. Yeah. Try to ignore being accused of kidnapping your own child, of being a criminal by virtue of existence. We watched them drive away, her still glaring, promising this was just the beginning. She made good on that promise. At first, it was just the staring. Watering already drowned petunias every time we left the house, just a silhouette in the window when we checked the mail. My wife started driving straight into the garage, closing the door behind us before we even got out, just to keep our son's first homecoming out of her sights. Then came the camera, big and menacing, pointed right at our door. What was she hoping to catch me taking out the trash? My wife blurry through the blinds. The message was clear. I'm watching you. I'm building a case. And then the notes started showing up anonymous, but all in the same flowery stationery we'd seen on her porch. Some people's music choices are very disruptive. Trash bins should be brought in promptly after pickup. We barely played music unless lullabies count as a public nuisance. Every note was a manufactured complaint, a paper trail of made-up sins. The paranoia started eating at me. Every creak at night I thought it was her. My wife, usually unbreakable, was fraying at the edges. Joy turned to stress, new parenthood twisted by a poison we couldn't see but felt every day. And then a twist. It's always at the exact moment you feel halfway normal again. We were sitting on the couch, takeout pizza in our laps, the baby finally asleep, a little normalcy. That's when the world exploded. First a low thudding noise, then the house started to shake. I ran to the window, heart in my throat, and saw a helicopter hovering over the neighborhood, a searchlight trained directly on our roof. Then armored vehicles, men in black rifles drawn, SWAT for us. This is the police residence of 124 Maple Drive. Come out with your hands up. You are surrounded. My pizza hit the floor. My wife was white as a sheet. What is happening? She whispered. Hostage situation. Armed suspect. She'd told them I was holding my family hostage. The fear was absolute, but so was the rage. I told my wife to stay put, hands up high, and stepped out onto the porch into a flood of lights and commands. I'm coming out. My wife and baby are inside. We are not hostages. Hands behind my head, knee on my back, cuffed like a terrorist on my own porch, while a dozen strangers tore through my house. They found nothing. The commander finally took off my cuffs, and I told him everything, every note, every accusation, every moment of hell. His face went from suspicion to anger. He sent officers across the street. They brought her out in cuffs, charged with filing a false report, swatting. But a night like that doesn't wash off. Our front door splintered, furniture overturned, our son screaming and terrified. Apologies don't fix the feeling of being hunted in your own home. And for her, out on bail the next day, a slap on the wrist, barely a blip in the news. The world saw a neighborhood dispute. We knew it was war. Days blurred full of fear. She was still there, smug as ever. My wife wouldn't let our son sleep alone anymore, wouldn't sleep herself. I was angry at everything. Her, the system, myself for being powerless. Until one night, desperate, I remembered an old friend from college, now a high-up at the FBI. I hit call not knowing what I'd say, but knowing I had to try. Miraculously, he picked up. I spilled it all. Every awful detail. He was quiet, deadly serious. Send me everything, police reports, camera footage, the works. This isn't just harassment. This is domestic terrorism. We're making an example out of this. Weeks passed, at first nothing. Then black sedans, men in suits on the block utility vans with too many antennas. Karen started to crack. IRS audits, EPA letters, visits from federal agents. Her job disappeared. She stopped looking smug. Her harassment didn't stop. She just went digital, posting in the neighborhood group. Watch out for the family at 124. So many police calls just saying, flyers went up, drug house, gang activity, protect our children, twisting our trauma into weapons. And then the final weapon, CPS at our door. We received an anonymous tip alleging child neglect. That's when my wife broke sobbing, sure they'd take our son. We lawyered up, built a fortress of evidence, called on my FBI friend. The CPS hearing was brutal, but airtight. Our lawyer, Ms. Dubose, presented sworn affidavits, police reports, the FBI background on Karen. Turns out she'd been a serial harasser her whole life. Case dismissed. But the victory felt hollow. She was still there grinning, knowing she'd poisoned our lives. She got bolder binoculars from her porch, following us to the store, pacing the perimeter at night. Then one afternoon, she stood on her lawn with a rifle slung over her shoulder, smiling that empty smile. We called the feds and the police at once. They arrested her, brandishing criminal threats, finally enough for a restraining order. Judge said 30 days to move or jail. She stalled, filed for extensions, played the system to the hilt. That's when I caught the real twist, late-night footage, a masked figure dropping notes in her mailbox, a limp I recognized from years ago. Pulled up her FBI report, found her brother, my old co-worker, a guy I'd gotten fired for stealing from the company 15 years ago. He was the one feeding her, stoking the fire, guiding the vendetta. The feds tapped their line, caught him on tape. Drive the smug bastard out, not bring the whole government down on us. The night he showed up in my driveway with a gas can ready to torch my car, the FBI took them both down. Conspiracy, stalking, witness intimidation done. I thought it was over. Then the director called. There's one more thing. Your wife, the driver who killed Karen's husband in a DUI years ago. I dropped the phone. My own wife carrying secrets tangled up in a past I never knew. All this time I thought this was my nightmare. Turns out it was all of ours twisted together: revenge, grief, racism, fate crashing in one quiet neighborhood. So here's my question for you. When is enough enough? When does a cycle like this break? And what does justice even look like when everyone's got scars? Tell me your thoughts, your stories, because I know there's more of us out there. Drop a comment. What would you have done? What's justice? What's survival? And what's just another American nightmare?